If you have been following the headlines recently, you have probably felt the confusion. We are living through a bizarre paradox. On one side, everyone is talking about peace. Donald Trump says he wants it done by Christmas. Zelensky talks about ending the bloodshed. But on the other side, the war isn't stopping. In fact, it keeps getting bigger. The United States says it has a master plan. Zelensky says the people must decide. Trump warns that World War III is around the corner, and NATO is telling Europe to prepare for a continental war. So what exactly is going on? Are we watching a war come to a halt, or are we watching the fuse being lit for a new, larger conflict? To answer that, we have to look at the document sitting on the desk in Washington, a proposal that changes everything. Here is what is happening right now behind closed doors. The United States has pitched a specific proposal, a free economic zone in Ukraine's Donbas region. Let's break down what that actually means. Donbas is the industrial heartland of the East. Right now, 80% of it is under Russian control. It is a wasteland of trenches and artillery craters. The U.S. proposal suggests that Kyiv should completely withdraw from this region, give it up, pull back the troops, and turn it into a buffer zone. But here is the catch. Who controls this zone? The proposal is silent on that. Is it a demilitarized zone like the one between North and South Korea? If so, who polices it? American troops? UN peacekeepers? Washington has already said American boots will not be on the ground. So this creates a weird halfway house, not fully Ukrainian, not fully Russian, and definitely not the front line that exists today. For Russia, this suits them perfectly. They have been eyeing Donbas since 2014. They control most of it already. But for Ukraine, this is a nightmare. It asks them to retreat from their own soil to create a free economic zone in the middle of a war zone. And historically, buffer zones often turn into frozen conflicts that last for decades. Just ask Korea, just ask Cyprus. How has Zelensky responded? He is trapped. No leader in history wants to be the man who signed away his country's land. Agreeing to this proposal is political kryptonite. It would destroy his presidency overnight. But at the same time, he cannot say no to Donald Trump. He cannot bite the hand that feeds him the weapons. So he has floated a third alternative, a referendum. Zelensky wants the people of Ukraine to decide. Why? Because it kills two birds with one stone. First, it gives him political cover. If the people vote to give up land, it's their choice, not his. Second, and more importantly, it buys him time. But think about the logistics of a referendum in a war zone. Millions of Ukrainians are refugees in Europe. Millions more are living under Russian occupation. How do they vote? Who counts the votes? It is a logistical impossibility, and Zelensky knows this. He is using the referendum as a shield to delay the inevitable. But Washington doesn't want to give him time. Zelensky has revealed that the Trump administration wants a full understanding of the plan by Christmas. That is less than 2 weeks away. The pressure cooker is exploding. Trump wants elections in Ukraine, but you cannot hold an election while bombs are falling. Zelensky says, first we need a ceasefire, then we can vote. Amidst this diplomatic chaos, Donald Trump is issuing a terrifying warning. The same man who promised to end the war in 24 hours is now saying a world war is in the making. Listen to his frustration. He looks at the killing. 25,000 soldiers died last month alone. Think about that number, 25,000. That is the population of a small city wiped out in 30 days. Soldiers are dying in frozen trenches. Civilians are dying in missile strikes. Trump looks at this meat grinder and says, this must stop. He looks at the diplomatic deadlock. For every breakthrough, two new disagreements appear. He sees the process moving too slowly. And he is not wrong about one thing. The front line barely moves. It has become a war of attrition like World War I. But while Trump wants to pull the plug, his allies in Europe are gearing up for something much worse. NATO isn't planning for peace. They are planning for the next war. This is the part of the story that isn't getting enough attention. NATO's new chief, Mark Rutte, has issued a specific warning. He says Moscow is probing NATO's borders exactly the way it probed Ukraine's borders in 2021. He says, "We are Russia's next target, and we are already in harm's way." When he became Secretary General, he warned that we have to shift to a wartime mindset because if Ukraine falls, or if Ukraine is forced into a bad peace deal that empowers Russia, NATO is next. Look at what is happening across Europe. Germany is overhauling its military for the first time in decades. Poland is building the largest land army in Europe. The Baltic states are building defense lines on their borders. The alliance is suddenly discussing things that Europeans thought were buried in the history books. They are talking about the draft, conscription. They are talking about ammunition shortages. They are creating 5-year timelines for a potential conflict with Russia. We are at the end of the first quarter of the 21st century, and conflict is no longer fought at arm's length. Conflict is at the door. Russia has brought war back to Europe, and NATO says we must be prepared for the scale of war our grandparents endured. So why is this war escalating even as everyone talks about peace? Because while everyone uses the word peace, they don't mean the same thing. The U.S. wants closure. They want this wrapped up before it becomes a liability. They want to focus on China. Europe wants security. They want a deal that stops Russian aggression permanently. They fear a frozen conflict will just let Russia rearm. Ukraine wants justice. They want their land back. They want their stolen children back. Russia wants territory. They want to keep what they conquered. They want to rewrite the map of Europe. Everyone says peace, but the maps in their heads do not match. And until those maps align, the fighting will continue. So tonight we are left with the real question. Are we watching the beginning of a peace process? Or are we watching the calm before the storm of a new, wider war? As the deadline of Christmas approaches, the world is holding its breath. Only time will tell.